Hi everyone, this is my theory literacy presentation on STEM literacy in an inclusion classroom. This is for course Read 7271 from the University of West Georgia Fall 2016 semester. Enjoy!
Hey everyone, my name is Stephanie Spivey, and I'm going to be discussing with you about the constructivist theory in this presentation. The constructivist theory was founded by John Dewey, and John Dewey believed that everybody comes with their own background information, and learning takes place when you combine the background information that you have with your new knowledge. So all of that together helps you to construct new understanding. So within the constructivist theory, there are some learning theories and some reading theories that you can take from that. So one of the learning theories that I'm going to be discussing is the discovery learning. Now, students that are doing discovery learning, it's similar to inquiry-based learning, in that students are going to be leading some of their own investigations. The difference is that in discovery learning, students are not only asking the questions, but they're seeking the answers on their own without a lot of guidance from, or without any guidance from other support. So students you'd be able to use this when you're doing project-based or problem-based learning. It's called PBL. So students would be able to respond to real-world situations by using the discovery learning method. Also, literacy or reading theories can come about by using the constructivist theory. So reading theory that we'll be discussing is the zone of proximal development. It's also called ZPD. So when you're thinking about ZPD, think about a circle. So within a circle, the inner part is the information or the learning that you're able to do on your own without any help from others. So as you have other people influence you or guide you, you can learn more. So you can use their insight, and you can use what you are reading and synthesize that information to have more learning. So students would be able to learn a smaller amount of information on their own, and with the assistance of their teacher, they'd be able to learn more. So you'd see this ZPD being applied in your classroom when you're differentiating, like in small groups, or even if you're differentiating tasks that you want students to be doing. So you'd be using their ZPD to be able to assign tasks or assign passages or text and reading based on their ability levels. Historical aspects of Vygotsky's zone of proximal development, ZPD, include when it was actually created. It was created in the 1920s. He's Russian, and he's one of the 4 contributors to the constructivism theory. When he was researching this ZPD, he wanted to find out the range of student learning when they are learning individually versus when they have guidance. And so he used that information to create ZPD to show an illustration with the circle how much you can learn when you are by yourself or when you have others to assist you with your learning. An example of that would be with high school text with elementary school students. So obviously a high school text would be above their reading level. It would be considered a challenging book in reading, and they wouldn't be able to get much information from that when they're reading it on their own. However, with guidance, they would be able to be more successful and understand some of the concepts that are written about at this higher level with the assistance of a teacher or a peer that is reading on that level. You can apply ZPD to your STEM literacy classroom in several different ways, especially within classrooms that have different levels of students. So you have your ESOL and your gifted and your special needs and your general students all in the same class. So you'd be working on the same standard, but you'd be going about it in different ways based on the students' abilities. So with your lower level students, if you're thinking about literacy with reading, you may be working on vocabulary building, helping them to remember different facts, helping them to understand and remember the sequence of events and stories. Whereas with your higher level students, they may be working even in small groups away from you, but under your guidance. Tasks that include creating and evaluating and analyzing. Both of these have to do with Bloom's taxonomy. So you can use those Bloom's taxonomy higher order thinking strategies along with ZPD. So the biggest thing when applying it is scaffolding and differentiating. The historical aspects of the discovery learning method is that it was developed by Bruner in 1967. Bruner, his name is Jerome S. Bruner. He's an American psychologist who is also one of the original proponents of the constructivism theory under Dewey. And he came up with this idea so that students would be able to solve problems and really be in control of their learning. It's very inquiry based. It's students are asking their own questions, they're finding answers for them, they're drawing on their own prior knowledge. So students would take into account what they already know, what their the group members, if they're working in groups, what they know, and they're able to take all that information along with new things that they're learning to be able to discover new ideas. So they're discovering different truths basically, but they're leading the way with their learning. You can apply the discovery learning model within your STEM literacy classroom, where students are investigating by asking questions and discovering their answers. They really draw on their past experiences and their knowledge to inquire and to ask questions as they're working on their learning. A way to differentiate this a bit is with it's called the picture word inductive model. For short, it's PWIM. And this model is used a lot with ELL students. It's not a true discovery model because the teacher is involved, but it's used with K-6 students to work on phonics and spelling. There'd be some explicit instruction, and which would lead to students being able to do and apply their understanding of the phonics and the spelling techniques on their own within books that they're reading on their independent level. So it's called the picture word inductive model. So these are different ways that you can apply the discovery learning model within your classroom. So the next thing that we're going to be discussing is comparing and contrasting these two theories, the reading and the learning. So with the reading, with ZPD, students will have more learning when they have guidance of their instructor. On the other side, with the discovery learning, all of it is student driven, so they're asking the questions and they're responding to them. The goal of both is that students will eventually become independent, or that they will be independent learners. This is especially important with STEM, that students are able to come up with questions and answer them independently. So with ZPD, within the zone of proximal development, students would be doing this after they've received some guidance from their instructors. So this would be the second time around we'd want to see them doing things independently. There's a lot of assessing that goes on with ZPD, so that's a lot of teacher time spent on that. With Bruner's discovery learning, the students are really challenged to think inductively and to apply their learning that has taken place with discovery. Actually, the research shows that students are able to retain more information when they do the learning on their own. So it has more meaning to them. So the ultimate goal for both, like I said, is that they're able to do this independently, which can be done through STEM learning. After this presentation, you should be really familiar with the ZPD and discovery learning. As you evaluate and think about both theories, the reading and the learning theory, you can think about different strengths and weaknesses both of them have. They both work well with STEM literacy classrooms with classrooms that serve all levels of learners and inclusion, gifted, special needs, general ed, and ESOL students. The strengths that come to mind when you think about ZPD are that the learning is really tailored towards students. Teachers have a really strong grasp of what their students' strengths and weaknesses are, so you're able to differentiate accordingly so that students feel really successful, and they're not presented with information that's too difficult for them. They're able to have guidance from the instructor and be able to take that understanding to be able to do things independently when they're working within their ZPD. Students do feel successful, and they also feel like they are in control of their learning when they're learning within their ZPD. So weaknesses that would go along with the zone of proximal development are that it's very time intensive. So teachers spend a lot of time assessing, individually assessing, so they are really familiar with their students. But there's only so many hours in the day in the classroom. So it could be perceived as overwhelming for teachers because you just don't have enough time to feel like you can adequately assess each student on a continuous basis. The control is more student-centered. Actually, with both of these, it's more student-centered. So teachers that are they are used to being in control of their classrooms and being in control of every aspect of their students' learning may find that this is a challenge for them, that it would be a weakness of ZPD because students are in control of their learning, because it is inquiry-based when they are seeking out information. With the discovery learning, some of the strengths include student engagement. Since the students are the ones that are asking the questions and they are looking for the answers on their own, they are the active participants. They aren't relying as much on their teachers to give them the answers. They have to do it on their own. So they're asking questions that they're motivated to be able to find the answers to, which allows them to be able to retain more information because they have ownership of their learning in this way. Their retention is higher as well. So it also fosters creativity and curiosity. These questions and these answers may lead to additional questions that they want to find that relate to the things that they just discovered. So it creates more learning opportunities for them. On the flip side of that, they may feel overwhelmed because they can't find the answers, or they feel frustrated because it's some of the questions that they ask are too difficult, or they're not sure where to start, and they just don't feel as successful. But with anything, the more time you have practicing things, the more successful you'll be, and hopefully the less frustrated these students would become. Another weakness would be that things are, there's going to be more misconceptions that might come up, so that teachers would have to go back and reteach or to have conversations with students when these misconceptions come up, because the students are doing a lot of the learning on their own without the teacher's input. So that would be considered time consuming for the instructor to go back and have conversations with students and make sure that they do truly understand the right information. There are time restraints. Again, with the students being curious and asking more questions, there just is not enough time in the day to be able to answer every single question that you have and to really truly have a deep understanding and have to research that. So sometimes it's helpful to have the teacher be able just to give you the information, synthesize that to understand it. But when you're using a discovery model and you are discovering the information on your own, you may run out of time in your day to be able to do that. So both of these learning theories, the ZPD and the discovery, are wonderful tools that you'll be able to use. So hopefully you'll be able to use some of the information that you've learned today through this presentation and carry it over into your classrooms. Happy learning, guys. Thanks for watching.